Mark Rogers TV, always talking college football 24/7, 365. And at this time, we're addressing the Ohio State football situation and Urban Meyer's coaching in particular. So I received 75 comments on my last video, my instant analysis of the Buckeyes' 31-16 loss to Oklahoma. So thanks for those comments. Subscribe to my YouTube channel right here at Mark Rogers TV for the best in college football analysis, not just from me, from the best bloggers and broadcasters in the industry. Also, the audio podcast at Stitcher, iTunes, and Podbean. All right, a lot of astute comments. I appreciate a lot of you who are out there commenting on a regular basis and providing feedback and insight into college football. I try to respond to as many as possible. There are also some very ignorant comments being made, both to my YouTube channel and to social media in general, in relation to Urban Meyer's coaching ability. Was he outcoached last night? Well, apparently so. Has he been outcoached before? Yes. Has any coach been outcoached before and will be again? Yes. So Urban Meyer's place in college football history, if he wins 0 more games, is locked. He has, by some standards, the best winning percentage in the history of college football. By any measurement, has one of the top 5 winning percentages in college football. So do not argue the track record, because you would sound foolish, because it's cemented in stone. It's locked. It's loaded. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. He has 3 national championships at 2 different programs. He has taken 2 other teams to undefeated seasons, but they were not given the opportunity to compete for a national championship. Talking Utah 13-0 in 2004 that won the Fiesta Bowl over Pitt, and Ohio State, of course, in 2012 when he inherited somebody else's, Jim Tressel's, players and went undefeated. Then he won 24 consecutive games before he lost to Michigan State. It's inevitable that anybody's going to lose, and I heard the same comments after he lost to Michigan State in the Big Ten Championship in 2013 that he was outcoached. Again, maybe so. Anytime a coach has great talent and he's playing a team that has either equal talent or lesser talent and loses the game, well, you can come to the conclusion that he was outcoached, and I have no issue with that. Because either he didn't game plan well enough, his coordinators didn't game plan, and that's his responsibility. The play calling was suspect, or you could say the team wasn't motivated or up for the game enough, and that's his responsibility as well. Regardless of how you slice it, it's all his responsibility. Therefore, he was outcoached, even if he doesn't have as good of players as the opposition, and the expectations are in Ohio State or Alabama, you got to win the championship every year. Then he's outcoached because he didn't recruit good enough players. So last night, yes, it looked like Oklahoma's scheme offensively was advanced and took advantage of Ohio State. Urban Meyer looked as though he game planned similar to knowing what he was able to do and what his team was able to capitalize in 2016 in Norman, Oklahoma, in a dominant win. Maybe the motivation for Oklahoma was underestimated. Baker Mayfield talked about it all offseason, that this loss to Ohio State in 2016 drove him and drove this team to be better. So maybe they wanted it more. Coach can't be in control of everything. Yes, Urban Meyer gets credit and recognition for a lot of good things, and he has to take the heat for the loss. So I have no issue with him being labeled as outcoached in this game. But the comments that he can't coach or he sucks, those are ridiculous. If he sucks, then everybody sucks. And if you want examples, here you go. So who are considered the best coaches in college football besides Urban Meyer? Well, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, the guys that have won national championships and who field top 5 and top 10 teams every year. Okay, Jimbo Fisher. Well, he's lost to Dabo Swinney, a couple consecutive years now, so he's been outcoached there. He's even been outcoached by the likes of Larry Fedora at North Carolina last year and outcoached by Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech, because they lost to Georgia Tech and they lost to North Carolina the last 2 years, and those are inferior teams by far. Let's see. He's been outcoached by Chip Kelly because he lost to Oregon by 39 points in the Rose Bowl in a National College Football semifinal. And, of course, he was outcoached this season by Nick Saban. And I could go on and on. Bobby Petrino outcoached him as well. Oh, Dabo Swinney lost to Pat Narduzzi last year. He lost to Pitt at home. How could that be possibly forgiven in any way? Well, they rallied and they won the national championship. Something that, oh yeah, Urban Meyer did in 2014. Lost to an unranked Virginia Tech team at home. A team that finished the season at 7-6. How many people predicted Ohio State to win a national championship after that game? I would count myself as 0 and counting all of you being 0, but they turned it around. I'm not predicting that they're going to win the national championship this year. I'm not also going to discount that they could run the table or lose a game in the Big Ten, still win the Big Ten championship, and get back to the college football playoff. Dabo Swinney, yes, we mentioned his losses. Nick Saban. Nick Saban lost to who? Hugh Freeze in 2 consecutive seasons. He was outcoached, obviously. He had much better talent, and he lost to Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze back-to-back. He, of course, lost to Dabo Swinney last year. Nick Saban has had seasons in which he's lost 7 games. So he obviously was a horrible coach those particular years. And a guy currently on the hot seat in Gus Malzahn, he, of course, beat him a few years ago en route to a national championship run. All right. Obviously, Urban Meyer needs to fix the passing game. And a lot of us thought that Kevin Wilson, coming in from Indiana with his pedigree that he established at both Oklahoma and Indiana in running offenses, would fix all this. And it apparently hasn't, because the passing game is still in shambles to a certain extent in terms of what it's expected to do. I thought the offensive line pass protection was pretty good last night. J.T. Barrett's not a great quarterback. Is he good enough to win a championship? Yeah, with the right guys around him. Ohio State has not replaced Devin Smith. They have not replaced Michael Thomas, the 2 elite receivers in that 2014 championship run. They've not replaced them, and J.T. Barrett is not dynamic enough like Michael Vick or Cam Newton to overcome that. He can win championships if given the right personnel, but he can't do it on his own. Urban Meyer said after the game yesterday that he would not replace J.T. Barrett. He said in no way is he considering that. I think much of that has to do with loyalty. Got to credit Urban Meyer for that, and he sees practice every day. He knows who the best quarterback is. He certainly was not hesitant about pulling J.T. Barrett at other times when he had Cardell Jones on the bench. He doesn't have Cardell Jones on the bench right now. He doesn't even have his backup quarterback, Joe Burrow, who has shown that he's a pretty capable quarterback in mop-up duty, at least has the talent, the guy who's thrown more touchdown passes than any player in the history of Ohio high school football, but he's got a broken hand. So I don't think he's too confident in going to the next guy. And let's just keep in mind, as we close here, that after losing to Virginia Tech in 2014, we know what happened. They ran the table. They won the national championship, beat 2 of the best teams that we've seen recently in college football in Alabama and Oregon. In 2015, no, Ohio State did not get back to the national championship after losing to Michigan State. But what did they do against 2 top 10 teams the last 2 games of the season after being humiliated at home against Michigan State? They beat Michigan. They drubbed Notre Dame. They beat them both soundly. And then last year against Penn State, they lost that game. Then they ran the table to get to the college football playoff, and in their way, they beat a number of solid teams, including a top 5 Michigan team. So don't put it past Urban Meyer and Ohio State to get on a roll after this. Not necessarily predicting this. I think they have a huge issue with the passing offense, and the defense isn't quite as great. Is it one of the best 5 to 10 defenses in the country? Yes. Is it number 1 or number 2? It doesn't look to be performing at that level at this point. Can it in the future? Most certainly. So Ohio State's still very talented, and there's not a whole lot of teams out there that want to play them. They do have problems and issues to fix. Would love to hear your comments right here at Mark Rogers TV.